Donna Zakowska is the Emmy-winning costume designer for all 3 seasons of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. And you won a trophy for John Adams for the HBO miniseries in 2008. And you were nominated for the first season of Mrs. Maisel. I think you should be nominated every year that you do the show. That's a good start. But now that I think Midge has taken her comedy act on the road with Shy Baldwin, I am guessing this 3rd season probably has more than costumes than the first 2 seasons combined.
Well, we definitely had, I think, something like 9,000 extras. And I think the record in America, or who knows, could be in the world as far as I know. But we had an enormous amount of people because we had so many big scenes and the Uso Show and all of those things.
Right. Well, I wanted to ask you about the Uso Show because I just love that dress because it took me a few minutes to realize it was red, white, and blue.
Oh, that's good.
And it was very subtle, but it was lovely. I mean, she didn't, it had enough glam factor that you realize she's paying tribute to the troops and, really doing it the right way. But I think, Shy Baldwin's probably her male equal as a fashion plate. And I loved his suit in that scene too, with the shiny material. It was a little longer, and I liked that for some reason. It looked good on him. So, but I mean, was that one of the most costume-packed moments on that stage and in that hangar? I mean, it just seemed like
it was a lot. We also had all of those like performers that you don't see that much, but each one individually was very interesting, like lots of different clowns and interesting characters. And so there was all of those performers. There were the nearly 1,000 troops. And then there was Midge, and trying to do something that was patriotic, but elegant and fashion at the same moment. You really didn't want to be obvious. So it was, pretty packed trying to get that scene on its feet.
Well, Midge is your main mannequin on the show, but I'm intrigued by how you dressed Alex Borstein as Susie Meyerson, and she reminds me of like a Bowery Boy character or something. But she wears leather jackets and suspenders and the cap on her head, and I'm also mystified by those keys. I don't know if it opens her apartment door or what are those, but she wears them all the time. So how did you come up with that outfit for her?
Well, I actually did a lot of research on the West Village and the whole Village area. And, that whole element, the leather jacket, and that sort of in-between masculine, feminine type of image, it's really the beginning of it in a way. And it's so radical for the 50s. So it really all generated from the research. Am I looking at it with her? The keys were something. We didn't want to do jewelry, but she said, well, I would always keep the keys to the gas side around my neck and my apartment, because if not, I would lose them, and then like the hat, there was something about the hat and the cap, when I put it on, it just found the character, and it really was something that was beginning to enter late 50s, early 60s. And of course, Bob Dylan made it really famous when he wore that cap. But something about it, just, that just for her and for me really created the full character. Sometimes you really need a hat to create a full silhouette. And there's something about that whole combination of things. And then the other elements that, I chose for her in the upcoming seasons, and it was always sort of subtle, and it was always something we talked about. And, I tried to move somewhat slowly in terms of introducing new pieces, so you never were aware that she was having like major costume changes, actually.
Yeah, it seems like she wears the same thing all the time. But I maybe I haven't paid enough attention. But this when she goes on the road, she has her formal version of that.
Jacket, yeah. The pants were. I had these strange Swedish Army trousers in my stock, and we really loved the shape. And so actually, the pants were built for her from these Swedish Army pants. And but then I built them in different denims, which we aged, and then the boots became my actually sort of boots that I had bought in Austria years ago, engineering boots. Again, we went through a lot of pairs of boots, but these were really like classic 1950s James jean boots. And so it actually, as simple as it was, it took a bit of effort to get there. And basically everything was built. And as we expanded on the sweaters, I had those the sweaters. So it was, a fair amount of work in its own way to be subtle but simple.
And you even do a joke with Tony Shalhoub as Abe with the two sweaters.
Right.
Like, people think he's just this, dotty man who has to have more warmth than he's probably has to.
Exactly. Yeah. I thought in a way that was a little bit of a monk-like moment, when Amy put it in the script. But it really was that sense of his, feeling secure in a father, grandfather sort of way. When I first read it, I was like, why the two sweaters, But then it all sort of made sense. It really helped to sort of create that sort of protectionist feeling that he was made to feel more insecure as the character.
Right. Now, in season 2, did you come up with the idea of giving Susie the red plunger, or did somebody else?
That was something Amy. I mean, we tried to figure out, what would be an element that she could carry around that would make her feel like she was functional, and then like everything else, sometimes you choose something and it becomes iconic. I mean, we brought it into the fitting, and I created this sort of crazy striped coveralls for her for the end of second season. But somehow the plunger became like this really. I guess it's also about an actor knowing what to do with it, and bringing humor to it. But it became sort of iconic. I had some strange cousin I hadn't heard from in the middle of the Midwest who said, that they were actually carrying around a plunger after seeing that. They really liked it as a detail. So you never really know what's going to sort of permeate consciousness, from an audience point of view.
And I also appreciated, I talked to Wanda Sykes for her role, and I had, growing up, I had seen Mom's Mabley, and I think you created that costume quite well. And I like the pineapple. For some reason, it tickled me that she had a pineapple print, and I just wonder, how you chose that particularly, because she wore these house dresses. They weren't really fancy or anything, but she had the signature hat and shoes and all that.
Well, the funny thing is I looked at lots and lots of pictures of her. And I remember when I was younger, or sure I had seen her perform. I don't know if it had been probably it would have been on television or something. But as I saw these pictures, there was this one dress with these pineapples. And then I thought, oh, that is fantastic, but we'll never find that. And so then I sent the shopper out, and they came back and they said, you're not going to believe what I found. And I was like, wow. For me, it was like so right, so like exact in a certain way. This sort of feeling that her house dresses always sort of came from kitchen curtains. So it really, I had actually found a picture of her in a pineapple dress. So when I found that was like, I really felt like we had hit a home run. And it became like a big element. I mean, we knitted her hat. We had many samples on that hat, trying to get it right. And even like the stockings, it's always about sort of choices, and then choices that have a credibility within a world that is, sort of magical in its own way, and illusionary.
Right. Well, in that scene with her and Midge, I mean, previously she pretty much wears a black dress, right, when she performs. I don't know if it's every time, but that seems to be the case. But when she goes to the Apollo, and I've seen fan theories about this, she performs in that very sparkly pink dress, right? And it was gorgeous, and Shai approved of it. But then it made her somehow seem whiter and less integrated with the crowd she was going to perform before. And, then when Mom's manager calls her Shirley Temple, it kind of really kind of fit. And it just seemed like that was kind of the beginning of her, where her trajectory goes after that she made a mistake, I think, in looking that way. And I don't know if that was intentional on your part too.
Well, I didn't quite understand what it was exactly I wanted to do there, but I knew I wanted to make a little bit of a break. I knew I wanted it to feel a little bit out of place. I actually had done a sketch of that dress and then did many versions, painting black with a little bit of color, blue with a little bit of black. And then I did one pink one. And I spoke to Amy and I said, maybe this is the moment where we do something that is a little bit of a radical break, that a little bit expresses her sort of strange naivete. I mean, I knew at that point where that script was going, because there's something naive about her in the way that she approaches that performance. And so it just felt right. And Amy was like, absolutely, let's do the pink. And then, as the scene even progressed, it really even made more sense. So I was I think she had to sort of break out of her mode of comfort and do something that she felt comfortable with in a more previous reincarnation of who Midge was. But it was awkward. And I think that was sort of important, that it was a little bit on the awkward side. If it was just a beautiful black, elegant dress, I don't think it would have quite had the impact. I don't think it would have made as much sense in terms of where the script was going.
Yeah. Well, it worked. I mean, yeah. And then there's an actual fashion show this season too, because of the Fontainebleau Hotel down the staircase. And, I think 1960 might be the time where cocktail dresses were very much in vogue. And those were with the petticoats and everything, that was more tailored to the body. So, I don't know. It seems to me maybe during the Miami After Dark segment, maybe some of those kind of dresses and apparel were more represented there. I remember Hugh Hefner doing those kind of shows. The vibe is right there on the screen. So, it just was an odd time that way. Well,
yeah, I know it would never happen now that way. Well, the thing is that as I got to the end of season 3, I was really trying to push a little bit into 1960. And that's why I really can't wait until we start doing season 4, because I am so ready for 1960-61. And it is so much a period of a trimmer dress, but with absolutely the craziest big hats in the world. I've already collected some of them and have a lot of amazing research. So I was trying at the end there to really start the push that I knew, when we got into season 4, which of course we would have been filming now had we not, had this craziness hadn't happened, but I'm pretty excited about that. And that was a little bit of the push when you see those last scenes that I was trying to do.
Right. But I noticed Mitch wears a whole lot of gloves this season too.
I love the gloves.
Yes. But like you say, it's, 1960 now, and there are signs of change, although I don't think the young people who beatniks, whatever they were, hanging out with Abe necessarily made much of a fashion statement to me. Maybe that was intentional because they don't care. Right. So there is a casualness among some of the people on screen this time. And, but as you say, the, season 4, is going to touch, I hope, upon like Jackie Kennedy comes into the picture, right?
Yes, I think I'm trying to keep it from 60 to 62 in terms of the look and the shapes, because something happens in 63 that changes everything, and that's where you begin to see that sort of Pierre Cardin space age look. And I don't think people have dealt with the transition that much in terms of design. So I don't want to make a big leap, but I have found really a lot of interesting silhouettes, and it's interesting. The gloves are still a part of it, but because I've analyzed this already, but now they're a little bit shorter, they're a little bit cuter. And then it's something about the silhouette becomes more narrow, but then you have this a major crazy hat. And so I'm really, excited about doing that. So I don't think it's been done that much, like really resisting what begins to happen in 63 and 64 and transitioning it. And I have a lot of great research already on that.
And, well, it seems like Midge's financial circumstances are going to take a downfall.
I know, I'm wondering about that myself. I know.
Yeah. Yeah. She'll have to go to Goodwill. What?
It's funny because, at the very beginning of the season, I get a small outline or a sense of where things are going, which I haven't gotten yet. I always get little hints, like, maybe a call or an email from Amy, saying, what do you think about that, or something. But it's always a little bit of a surprise. So I'm always like a tiny bit prepping in my own mind about where I think it's going to go and what I think we're going to do. So, yeah, one of the big questions in my mind is, what happens with Midge financially? I don't think Midge is ever going to look poor, I'll be honest with you. It's just not going to happen because it's a little bit of a train that left that station, and I think we like being on it too much, But Amy will probably find some way for the sort of fashion element or the heightened element, of Midge, I think, to continue. But I must say it's all guesswork to me. At this point, I have no idea, but I'm sure it's very clear in Dan and Amy Palladino's mind. They always sort of know what the arc is. Even when we were in season 1 and Marin talked about Paris, I didn't realize that we'd be in Paris in season 2. And if you really pay attention, you see in the season before where the arc is going. So I'm sure they're very aware of it. I just don't have any idea yet at this point. So,
well, I think it's great that you have 2 of your designs from season 1 in the Smithsonian. I live outside of Washington in Northern Virginia, so I haven't been there for a long time, especially now. But I didn't realize her blue nightie and pink coat from when she initially tried out kind of to do her stand-up and succeeded somehow. And also her first black dress.
Right. Yeah. That meant a lot to me. I mean, that whole Smithsonian thing, going there, they gave us a tour, going through these sort of cabinets and seeing, all these things like, Joe Fraser's shorts to Muhammad Ali's robe to all this stuff. It was really like, it hit me. I didn't really think about it until the moment I got there. And then I was like, wow, this is sort of great. It's really great to, our demographics are sort of wide, men and women. And so it was really thrilling. Going to the Smithsonian, those 2 dresses, that was a very thrilling night for me. And I really was very happy that they did that.
Well, it's well-deserved, I think. And thank you for joining me. And I love, this is really one of my favorite shows ever. I mean, it just, and I'm sorry that, season 4 is a little behind, but I know it's going to be worth waiting for. So thank you, and thank you for making such wonderful images to watch and clothing people so well.
Okay, that's great talking to you.